Be me. I don't even know where to start with this because it feels like it was always this way. Like my whole life, I was told I was special, and I believed it. When I hit 13, something shifted. Puberty. Boys suddenly looked at me differently. It wasn't subtle. Overnight, they started carrying my books, saving me seats, asking me to dances. I remember the first time a group of girls from class whispered about how lucky I was that the older boys noticed me. I didn't even do anything, just existed, and it felt like power. By high school, I had figured it out. I could say no as often as I wanted, and there would always be someone else waiting. Other girls complained about getting ignored or being treated badly. That wasn't me. If a guy didn't measure up, I cut him off without blinking. College was the same, only multiplied. Parties, clubs, Tinder. I had guys tripping over each other. Some tall and athletic, some rich and flashy, some funny, some hot. I learned to compare men like menu items. He's cute, but he's only 5 feet 9 inches. Why bother? He's tall, but broke. He's ambitious, but boring. Why settle when I could keep trading up? That was my logic. That's when Will came into the picture. We met in the most boring way imaginable, through a group project in one of my sophomore year classes. He was the dependable guy in the group. Showed up on time, took notes, picked up the slack when other people flaked. He wasn't trying to impress anyone, just steady. At first, I didn't even consider him. He wasn't flashy, not tall, not ripped, not rich. Just regular. I remember thinking, he's the type girls with no options end up with. But the thing is, Will noticed me. Really noticed me. Not like the other guys who stared at my ass at parties or tried to impress me with their cars. He asked me questions about my life, remembered my answers, even bought me my favorite coffee without me saying it twice. It was weird, unsettling almost, to have someone so tuned into me. And honestly, I let him in for selfish reasons. My plan, if you want to call it that, was simple. Will was safe. He was stable. He made me feel adored. And I figured, why not keep him around while I waited for someone better to come along? He was like training wheels? The placeholder boyfriend. I knew he wasn't my forever, but he was easy. He made me feel wanted without me having to try too hard. So I leaned into it. I let him drive me places, pick me up food, listen to my rants about other guys. I tested how far I could push it, how much he'd put up with, and every time he just smiled and said yes. At first, it felt flattering. Then it felt dull. It didn't take long before I started picking at him. His car? Embarrassing. A beat-up Civic that wheezed when it started. His job? Steady but unimpressive. Some junior analyst role at a local firm. No prestige, no big money. Every flaw became a joke for me to bring back to my friends. And they loved it. Friday nights, wine glasses in hand, I'd perform like a stand-up comic. You guys. He actually thinks Banana Republic is fancy, and the worst part, he never snapped back. He'd just laugh it off or say something soft like, I don't need much. I just want a life with you. God, that line, that stupid, earnest line. My friends and I practically howled when I told them. Can you imagine? I scoffed. Settling for someone who shops clearance racks and thinks that's enough? No way. I'm meant for more. I deserve more. And in my head, that was the truth. Will wasn't someone you married. He was someone you practiced on until the real thing came along. So that's how everything went on for some time, till I got fed up. I started pushing him harder. You need to level up, I'd tell him. Take yourself more seriously. Be more ambitious. Don't you want to be somebody? At first, he tried. He'd put on button-downs instead of t-shirts, work late to impress his boss, talk about maybe applying to bigger firms. But the harder he tried, the more obvious it was to me that he was doing it for me, not because it was who he was, and honestly, that made me lose even more respect. Eventually, he started to look tired when we were together. That kind of bone-deep tired, like he knew no matter what he did, he'd never measure up to what I wanted. And then came Ryan, 6'3", broad shoulders, finance internship at Goldman Sachs, drove a brand new BMW his parents bought him as a graduation present. His jawline looked like it was carved by Michelangelo. He wore suits like they were stitched onto his body. The kind of guy who walked into a bar and every girl's head snapped toward him. So when Ryan noticed me, flirted with me, started taking me to rooftop lounges and ordering $100 bottles of wine like they were nothing. How could I not upgrade? I remember the day I told Will it was over. I'd rehearsed it like a script, sitting across from him in his bland little apartment. He looked at me while I talked, that same patient gaze he always had, but I could see something heavy behind his eyes. When I finished, he finally said quietly, "I've been trying, you know. I've worked late nights, bought new clothes, even started looking at bigger jobs because you wanted me to. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I sighed, already irritated. "It's not just about working late or buying a new shirt, Will. You don't get it. You don't have ambition, drive. You're comfortable just being average, and I can't be with someone who's fine with settling for that." His jaw tightened, but he stayed calm. "So none of it matters? Everything I've been doing, it's not good enough for you?" I shrugged, trying to sound logical instead of cruel. "It's not that it's not good enough. It's just, I need more. I need someone who pushes me, excites me, someone who makes me feel like I'm not wasting my best years." There was this long pause then, like he was weighing every word he could possibly say. And then he just nodded slowly, eyes steady on mine, and said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." That was it. No begging. No, "I'll change." No fight. Just a calm release, like he was already letting me go before I even walked out the door. And God, that annoyed me. I wanted him to fall apart, to break down, to beg me to stay, to prove how much power I had over him. But he didn't. He just sat there, quietly dignified, while I packed up my things and left. A part of me started to question if I was doing something wrong, but my friends told me I was doing the right thing. "Girl, you're in your prime. Don't waste it on average." Even my mom said, "Don't tie yourself down too early. You have so much ahead of you. Go for the best." So I told myself it wasn't cruel, it was smart. That I was being practical. That I had to prioritize myself and my future. And besides, I had a dozen other guys in my phone. Why waste time worrying about the one who couldn't keep up? A couple weeks later, I was having lunch with my brother, Mark. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Hey, what happened to that guy you were seeing?" "Will, right? I met him once when he picked you up. Seemed like a solid guy," I laughed, rolling my eyes. "Will? Please. He was boring. Drove a crappy Civic, worked some dead-end analyst job. He wasn't going anywhere." Mark frowned. "I mean, he seemed nice." "Respectful. You know how rare that is, right?" I waved him off. "Nice doesn't cut it. I want more. I deserve more. Why would I waste my prime on someone average?" He gave me this look, part disappointment, part warning. "Just be careful. Trading up isn't always what you think it is." But I wasn't hearing it. I was already distracted, texting Ryan, the guy I'd just started seeing. 6'3", finance job, BMW. Everything Will wasn't. I smirked at my brother and said, "Trust me. You'll understand when you see this guy. He's in a whole different league. At first, being with Ryan felt like winning the lottery. He was the kind of man other women would kill to be with. Tall, broad-shouldered, the type who looked like he walked straight out of a GQ photo shoot. His finance internship at Goldman turned into a high-paying job. He had the BMW, the suits, the connections. Every night with him felt like a movie. Rooftop lounges, penthouse parties, champagne in glasses taller than my arm. When I posted pictures, my DMs blew up with girls asking, "How did you bag him?" I told myself this was proof. Proof I was right to leave Will. Proof that I was out of his league. Proof that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But then, the cracks. Ryan wasn't like Will. He didn't listen. He didn't care about my favorite coffee order or the way I liked to sleep with a fan on at night. He cared about the gym, his job, and his image. He flirted with waitresses right in front of me, left me on red for hours, cancelled plans last minute. When I brought it up one night over dinner, he barely looked up from his phone. "So, what are we?" I asked, trying to sound casual, even though my stomach was twisting. Ryan smirked, finally glancing at me. "What do you mean? What are we? We're us. We hang out, we have fun." "Fun?" I repeated, my voice going sharper than I meant. "That's it? We've been seeing each other for months, Ryan. Don't you think it's time we made things official?" He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "Official? Why complicate it? You're hot. I like you. We're having fun. Isn't that enough? That line cut me more than I wanted to admit. Fun. That's all I was to him. Entertainment, a placeholder until he got bored. I pressed harder. I don't want to just be fun, Ryan. I want something serious, a real relationship. I deserve a guy who takes me seriously. He raised his eyebrows, almost amused. Takes you seriously? Babe, you overthink everything. Why can't you just enjoy what we have? I felt my cheeks burn. Because I'm not 20 anymore. I'm not going to waste years on someone who won't commit. I want to know where this is going. That's when his smirk dropped. His voice went flat, sharp. You nag too much. Honestly, it's exhausting. Every time we go out, it's something... I don't text fast enough. I look at a waitress too long. I don't say the right thing. I don't need this. I blinked at him, stunned. Excuse me? He didn't flinch. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table like he was spelling it out for a child. Look, I'm not going to lie. I can get a dozen girls tomorrow who won't make my life harder. Girls who won't sit here and grill me like I'm on trial. You think you're the prize here? Newsflash. You're not the only one with options. It was like the air got sucked out of the room. My heart pounded, my pride screamed at me to fight back, but all I managed was a week. So that's it? You're just... done? Ryan stood, tossing his napkin onto the table. Yeah, that's it. I don't need this drama. We had a good run, but I'm not looking for a ball and chain. And just like that, Ryan dumped me. I was furious. How dare he dump me? I was the one who upgraded. I was the prize. He should have been fighting to keep me, not tossing me aside like I was just another one of his flings. So I spiraled. I had flings with other flashy guys, DJs, startup entrepreneurs, crypto bros with Lamborghinis, men who knew how to impress for a weekend, but never texted back on Monday. I told myself I was just enjoying my freedom, but really, every time they ghosted, it stung deeper. And then came the night my brother checked me. We were out for dinner, just the two of us. I'd had a few glasses of wine and was ranting about how dating sucked, how no one was good enough, how I deserved better. Why is it so hard to find a guy who's tall, rich, good-looking, ambitious, funny, loyal, confident, all of it? That's what I deserve. He put his fork down, looked me dead in the eye, and sighed. Look, I love you. But you need to hear this. You want some guy who's 6'3", makes 6 figures, drives a BMW, has abs, has options? Fine. But answer me this. Why would a guy like that settle with you? I froze. He kept going, his tone sharper now. Look, you're not 22 anymore. That's just reality. You've got baggage, you nitpick everything. You talk about standards like it's your religion. Guys like the ones you want, the 6'3", 6-figure, 6-pack types, they have endless options. You think they're going to pick the girl who argues about everything, who keeps score, who tears them down? Number. They'll pick the girl 10 years younger than you, the one who laughs at their jokes, doesn't fight them on every little thing, who's just easier? I stared at him, my jaw tight. So what? You're saying I should settle for less? He shook his head. I'm saying you need to be honest with yourself. You want a guy who's at the top of the pyramid? Fine. But why would he choose you when he could have a younger, hotter girl who isn't going to nitpick his car, his apartment, his job title? What do you bring to the table that she doesn't? I was livid. I told him he was being sexist, that he didn't understand, that women age like wine. He just shook his head. No. Women age like people. Everyone does. Stop lying to yourself. I stormed out of that dinner in tears, but his words stuck, because for the first time, someone close to me had said out loud the thing I was terrified of hearing. Maybe I wasn't as valuable as I thought I was. I tried to shake off what Mark said, told myself he was just being bitter, projecting his own issues onto me. He doesn't get it, I told my girlfriends over brunch. Men hate seeing women know their worth. I'm not settling for scraps. They nodded, clinked mimosas with me, but I noticed the hesitation in their smiles. Most of them already had boyfriends, fiancés, even husbands. But then I got back on the apps, and that's when it really hit me. Before, I'd open Bumble and have dozens of matches waiting. Tall, handsome guys with finance jobs, athletes, ambitious types. Now, my inbox was full of divorced dads in their 40s who opened with, "Not looking for anything serious." Men who were 10, 15 years older who wanted kids yesterday. A handful of 20-somethings swiping for hookups. The guys I once thought were lining up for me weren't there anymore. And when I did match with someone who checked a few boxes, tall, good job, good looking, the conversations fizzled after a few days. Half of them didn't even bother to meet up. I tried to rationalize it. They just can't handle a strong woman. Men are intimidated by me, but late at night, staring at my phone, I remembered Mark's words. Why would a guy like that settle with you? Meanwhile, my friends were posting engagement photos, baby announcements, vacation pictures from Italy with their husbands. One of them, Jessica, had married this boring accountant years ago. I used to joke about how plain he was, how she'd settled. Now they had a beautiful house, 2 kids, and a golden retriever. And then came the real gut punch. I ran into Will. It was at a work networking event. I'd almost forgotten about him, tucked him away in that average box in my mind. But when I turned around, there he was. In a fitted navy suit, clean cut, confident, he looked good. Better than I remembered. And he wasn't alone. On his arm was this younger woman, maybe late 20s, early 30s at most. Gorgeous, glowing, the kind of natural beauty you can't fake. She laughed at something he said, and he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. I froze, smile plastered on my face while my stomach twisted. He noticed me, gave a polite nod, and introduced her. "This is my fiancée, Claire." Fiancée. The word rang in my ears like a gunshot. I forced small talk, tried to act unfazed, but inside I was screaming. This wasn't supposed to happen. Will, boring, average Will, wasn't supposed to win. He was supposed to stay the guy in the Civic, the one I outgrew, but he'd leveled up in ways I hadn't expected, and the worst part? He didn't look at me with regret. He looked at me like I was just another person in the room. That night, after too many glasses of wine, I did something I swore I wouldn't. I texted him, "Do you ever think about us?" He didn't reply right away. I spent the next day glued to my phone, checking between meetings, rereading old photos like they were proof he'd still want me. When his reply finally came, it was short, polite, almost businesslike. "Hope you're doing well. Busy lately, but maybe we can catch up for coffee sometime." I read it 10 times, convincing myself maybe was his way of holding back desire. We met that weekend at a quiet cafe downtown. I wore my best dress, spent hours on my hair, spritzed myself with the same perfume I wore when we first dated. I wanted him to see I still had it. Will walked in, looking sharp hair neatly styled. He hugged me politely before sitting across the table. He asked how I'd been, listened as I exaggerated stories about my busy life, all while his eyes stayed calm, steady, but distant. He talked about his work, his hobbies, his fiancée. Claire. The name alone made my chest tighten. I laughed too loudly, leaned across the table, brushing his hand with mine. "No one ever cared for me like you did, Will? Don't you ever miss it? Just us? The way it used to be?" For a moment, I swore I saw something flicker in his eyes. I pressed harder, lowering my voice. "I think about it all the time. About us. About what we had." "Don't tell me you don't." But instead of leaning in, he pulled his hand back. His voice was calm, steady, final. "You had me when I was yours to have. I gave you everything, and it wasn't enough. You made it clear I wasn't what you wanted. I won't betray her now." I'm happy I sat there frozen, smile plastered on my face while my insides crumbled. Because in that moment, I realized the truth. The man I once mocked as average was now too good for me. I'm 40 now, alone. My friends are married, with kids and houses. Their lives look full. Mine feels empty. And Will? He's thriving. A beautiful wife, children, family photos that look like postcards. The kind of life I thought would just fall into my lap. I sit there with a glass of wine, scrolling through his happiness, realizing I thought women aged like wine, but I wasn't wine. I was milk, left out too long. Will was the last man who loved me for me, and I threw him away. Now he has everything, and I have nothing.